Well, welcome to our very first BrokerTech Ventures and Leaders Edge webinar series. For our very first episode of this series, we thought it'd be a good idea to bring the founders of BrokerTech Ventures all together. I think we might be across 4 different time zones today, so bring everybody together to talk with the founders of BrokerTech Ventures. So my very first question, actually before we get to any questions, why don't we do an around the room and have everybody introduce yourself, maybe your name, who you work for, and where you're at this specific moment. Ellen, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I'm Ellen Willitson. I work for Holmes Murphy and am currently in Waukee, Iowa.
All right, Mike, how about you?
Mike Victorson, M3 Insurance, Madison, Wisconsin.
Sarah?
Sarah Walsh, Payne West Insurance, and I'm in Helena, Montana.
Ooh. Terry?
Terry Tracy, I'm with Connor Strong and Bucklew, and I'm in beautiful Camden, New Jersey.
It is beautiful. And Brian, why don't you round us out?
Hi, I'm Brian Hetherington. I'm chairman of ABD, and I'm currently wrapping up a vacation in Tahoe.
Not a bad little rundown. So welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this call today. My very first question, it's going to go to Mike Victorson here. Mike, you are the co-CEO of BrokerTech Ventures. What was the very first original concept of BTV?
BTV had a beginning in a desire and a hope to not just keep up, but set the pace in our industry. The insurtech space was off and running. Some people think maybe that was 2015, maybe 2013, kind of spinning out of fintech. And we just noticed a complete absence of the broker voice and the broker participation. And a lot of those early insurtech dollars going toward things that were either direct to consumer, so maybe the retail consumer in a home and auto setting, or insurance companies trying to make their operation better internally. And we thought that we could be a part of a bigger and better solution that would shape an industry, because when you get us involved, you get, as brokers, you get the end customer involved. And when the end customer is involved, we always think, at least not speaking for all my colleagues on the panel, but we think the best solutions happen that way.
That's right. And Brian, I know you are on the West Coast. You're out in Tahoe right now, and you've been involved in the insurtech space out in Silicon Valley, out in California. When you first heard about BrokerTech Ventures, what did you think made BTV unique in the insurtech space?
Yeah, I really think that the collaboration between like-minded firms to go help other interested insurtechs grow quicker, have access to the right resources, and get direct feedback for the collective good of the brokerage distribution sector.
And Sarah, when you first heard about the concept of brokers, competing brokers, coming together on a project, what did you think of that idea of partnering with your competition?
We were fine with it. Everybody that our owner partners are have been partners and such well-respected businesses in the industry, and we respect everybody on here as well. So for us, it was a no-brainer for sure. There was just with so much noise in insurtech space, it was a breath of fresh air to have the opportunity to collaborate with others that are trying to cut through the noise just like we were.
What do you mean by noise in the insurtech space?
Oh, just there was so much. I mean, it was like think of it, it still is. There's still a little bit of noise, but I think this is cut down on that a little bit because we're able to more fully listen to others and see what they're doing, what sounds good to them, rather than trying to go through that ourselves. And then with BrokerTech Ventures, even narrowing that down even more with all the different components of BrokerTech Ventures as well. So there's still noise, but I think it's more manageable partnering and collaborating with our partner firms here.
Yeah, and Terry, you're out on the Northeast, out in New Jersey right now. We can see that wonderful skyline behind you. Insurtech has been one of these buzzwords in our industry for, I think Brian mentioned it, 7-8 years now. And Sarah just mentioned the noise. So how have you been able to cut through that noise in the insurtech space to know, which direction to go with it?
Yeah, Tim, I would tell you, just to expand on what Sarah said, I think it's a great point, is that, for us, doing this alone if we went, so we have an InsurTech practice group, and by doing it alone, we make this much progress. When we're working with BrokerTech Venture, we're making this much progress. We're changing the industry. So for us, and we looked at it, and there is a lot of noise. There's thousands of these technology companies that they're going to solve all our problems. Well, quite frankly, not many of them really do. So working with 13 other strong regional brokers for us made all the sense in the world. And it helped us become more focused on what technology we want to work on and then what companies we want to work with.
Thanks, Terry. And so Ellen, Terry just mentioned it there, 5 founding members that are all represented today, but now we have 13 partners at BTV. So Ellen, your role has been in that capital tower and partnerships as BTV has continued to grow, especially over this last year. What have you been looking for as far as how to evaluate strategic partnerships over the last 12 months with BTV?
Well, from a innovation perspective, I think we're looking primarily for things not only that can make our own agencies efficient, but also anything that can help our end customers and also our partners being insurance carriers. So anything along the value chain are the opportunities that we're really looking for.
Sarah, you've had a lot of different roles in your career, a lot of different hats that you've worn. What areas of insurance do you think are ripe for technology?
I can't think of an area that's not ripe for technology in the business. Sorry, I kind of, but I really can't. I think everywhere there is. But, I think some of the more obvious, couple of the more obvious areas would be personal insurance and small business. Those our customer is changing. Has changed and is changing. And so as an industry, we have to somehow be able to figure that out to make it a more streamlined process than it is right now. And there's been things along the way that have, it's better than it was 10 years ago and 20 years ago for sure. But there's still a lot of areas, especially in those 2 areas, to improve upon that. Again, it goes down, I think Mike said it and Ellen said it, everybody has said it. It goes down to what's best for the customer. And so any technology that we can bring on that helps us help our customers and gives them a better experience in our industry, because we're not known as the coolest, are we? Even though we are very cool. But anything we can do, to help with that, I think is tops. But really, I'll say it again, there's not an area that couldn't use a little bit of technology help in our business.
Yeah, you bring it up, the customer experience or putting customers first. And I think that gets back to Mike's original statement about why BTV mattered, why it happened, or why it makes sense for brokers to lead this innovation. Brian, in your time out west, in your involvement in InsurTech, have you seen most of the solutions that you've seen be more carrier-driven than broker-driven?
Oh,
Not necessarily. I think, and InsurTech is such a broad swath. So you can think about healthcare and property and casualty. Right now, the money's been about 55% into healthcare and 45% into property and casualty. So if you think about the distribution of those components, there are some solutions that are really broker-centric, trying to figure out how to go make them more effective on the front end, underwriting or managing claims. On the healthcare side, InsurTech is such a broad swath. Like I'm wearing this Aura ring, which all the NBA players have to wear going back in now, measures your temperature, your sleep, your steps. But these are kind of things that'll help the carriers that we hope they'll pay for things like this for our clients when they're going back to the office to know in this time of COVID, technology is going to help have a safer workplace. So that's both on the property and casualty side and on the employee benefit side. And that works from a carrier perspective to a direct distributor or to a broker perspective. I was going to say one other quick comment that Sarah's comment on the noise in the industry reminds me of like one of the most famous InsurTechs out here was Zenefits, and they raised $500 million at a $4.5 billion valuation, and their CEO Parker Conrad had an expression: "We're going to drink the brokers' milkshake. We're going to put the brokers out of business." And I think one of the things it just showed is that the naivete of not understanding the broad swath of what insurance brokers do. And they had a really nice front end and no back office. And I do think that's one of the things here with BrokerTech Ventures is we have all the back office here. We know how to go service our clients, And we're trying to figure out how to go build this front end to connect to make sure we're doing the underwriting best way, paying claims the right way, and preventing accidents.
Yeah, and it's amazing how far BTV has gone in just a short amount of time. And a lot of the credit goes to, the founding members that are on this call. Ellen, you've been involved every step of the way. What's been that biggest hurdle that you've had to get over in the last 12 months with BTV?
I think just the pace of getting up and going was very fast. When you think we started the accelerator just months after bringing this group together and kicking it off. But fortunately, we were able to hire John Jacobin as the to lead the accelerator, which helped a lot. But I've been just really pleasantly surprised with the contribution of everyone from the group here to the partners to the carriers that have been involved, have really devoted the energy to help make it a true success in a very short period of time.
Well, the insurance industry is not known for being nimble. And speed and efficiency and being nimble is not one of the hallmarks of the insurance industry. So how do you take this industry that, these companies that are represented here have been in the industry for a long time and all of a sudden try to match the speed and efficiency of the technology space?
Well, don't you think, and maybe could kick it to some other members on the panel here too, it's part of us changing the culture. And for too long, the business insurance industry and even the benefits industry, it's kind of been a lockdown because of an insurance company trying to find a proprietary advantage. And they want to create in us, even though we're independent producers and brokers, as much of a captive relationship as they can. That's one of their challenges. And often the systems with which they operate would lend themselves to accomplishing that goal. I don't know who else I would kick it to, but doesn't it feel like when we all get together and talk that we're talking about how we democratize that information, much like what's happened with the internet over the years, and allow our insurance companies to compete on the stuff that really matters, not the artificial roadblocks that ruin the customer experience.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, I would add to Mike's comments, Tim, that I think his point is a great one. What we have, so it's almost which comes first, the chicken or the egg. And the insurance companies have been looking at this various technology, but have been reluctant to push some because what the brokers accepted. What they're getting with us is they're getting scale. They're getting over $2 billion of revenue, billions in premium. And if we sign on to something, it's 13 super regional brokers buying in, as opposed to them knocking on door by door.
Sarah, I see you nodding your head a lot too. Anything to add there?
I think both Mike and Terry covered it a lot. It just kind of boggles the mind when you think of what we are doing here and the volume that we have. And I think that it will make a difference and make changes. Someone mentioned, I think it was you, Mike, just mentioned just internally culture. And I'm sure I'll obviously just speak for our company, Pain West, but I suspect others feel the same way too, just in technology in general. It is such a culture shift. And I think over the years that brokers have been more tentative to try new things. We kind of get comfortable in, well, this has worked for a long time and it's worked really, really well. So why change that? And so I think with all of our firms that, if we can change, and we are changing that culture inside to say, hey, we have to try. And something might not be perfect, might not, hit A to Z on what we want it to hit, but if it hits most of that, let's try to move forward with that. And in conjunction with our carrier partners, because, we need them as much as they need us. And so I think as we're doing this, that's such an important component as well. So.
Right.
I might also, go
ahead.
One quick thing too. I think I want to give a quick shout out to Travelers because they started something about 3 years ago called the Agency of the Future. And as we were going through this process with some other kind of like-minded competitors, Travelers came back and said, we're not doing this just for Travelers, we're doing this for the whole industry. And I think when you look at the flip side of, if ABD goes to Travelers and say, I need an unfair competitive advantage over M3, like that doesn't help the whole industry. But the way that we're all looking at this saying, okay, let's make Travelers' life easier to trade with us and vice versa, that helps everyone. And that kind of cooperation, I don't think had existed previously. And so I think that kind of opened up our eyes to saying, okay, Travelers really is investing to the whole industry, not just for Travelers' benefit. And I think that's our whole approach for BTV too. If any one of our firms was doing something siloed and had a technology piece, I think the skepticism of the rest of the industry of using something that was an ABD product, like nobody would want to use that. But putting that into the BTV vernacular, I think this kind of makes everything a little bit agnostic and people are more willing to adopt it.
Great point. And I think we've seen kind of that message not only spread across the United States, but also around the world in a really short time. I've heard stories of, we already have calls with, BTV has calls with India and Israel. And so how did the word get across the ocean to these other countries about BrokerTech Ventures in just a short amount of time?
I don't know if you all are like me, but has your LinkedIn just blown up? It's great. I mean, that's one of the things I don't know, maybe it's connected to the conversation too, though, that, you know, the world is so small now, and we all work so much together, and it would be, I think, we've learned it would be pretty small-minded for us to think that the United States is the epicenter of innovation and technology. It was really fun, you know, Ellen and Dan were calling us, you know, because the Holmes Murphy folks, you know, you've been in the original question. I mean, M3 had this idea and pitched it, and part of it was good, and most of it was bad. And then Holmes Murphy took it and made it 1,000 times better. But the amount of work that the folks at Holmes Murphy have done to really make this go has just been astounding in year one. And so it would be kind of dumb, I think, to have the first storyteller to not go, thank you, tip our hat to you all. But they're the ones, and so I don't know, Ellen, if you want to jump in, but they're the ones who are like, hey, Israel, like, let's just do this here. And Susan's like, we're going to do something there. And India, what's going on? And so I don't know, Ellen, if you want to talk, but it was just great how that just kind of happened.
Well, first of all, thanks, Mike, for the comments. But I think also thanks to Brian Heatherton and the ABD team, because their connections through WBN have definitely been helpful in getting this rolling as well. The international piece in particular. And, you know, I think to your point, Mike, once you have one connection in today's world, it just multiplies so quickly and really has helped propel this forward at unprecedented speeds.
Yeah, Brian, do you want to add to that?
Oh, and echo, I mean, I think when we all talked about this a couple of years ago at the CIAB about trying to do a fund, that was harder to go do than putting together BTV. I think Holmes Murphy really has taken the lion's share of making this easy for us to participate. It's a lot of work. And so thank you to Holmes Murphy for that. You know, I participated in the WBN when I'm on the board there. And when I mentioned this to a couple of colleagues, we actually did an early webinar that was well attended from around the world, people wanting to learn more. And now they're working on a BTV Europe and a BTV Latin America that are going to try and replicate what we've done here. And in the spirit of collaboration, it all starts with, hey, this may not work out to be a BTV venture, but we're happy to share what we've learned if you want to go do something like that, that's going to help the whole industry. But again, none of this would happen without the groundwork that M3 and Holmes Murphy put together. So thank you.
Now, Terry, you are farther in the future than the rest of us because you're on East Coast time. And I think we might have 4 different time zones represented here today. How has, you know, connectivity with other founding members that are in 3 other time zones? We have people in New Jersey and California and Montana and Iowa on the call today. How big of a challenge has that connectivity been as this project's been getting going over the last year?
Yeah, I would echo my colleagues' comments that Holmes Murphy has made this process easy for us. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes, so for us it's been easy. And you know, the connections, it's also the relationships we build with the other super regional firms. For us, you know, as our industry continues to go through a consolidation, there's fewer and fewer firms like the 5 of us around, and working together on BrokerTech Venture and really getting to know each other and just sharing best practices has been a terrific benefit.
Cool. And I think to wrap things up, let's talk about like what's happening here within the next 6 months. What's in the near future for BrokerTech? Sarah, do you want to kick us off on that?
Sure. I wish I had a calendar in front of me to give you specifics here, but we just know it's going to be a lot and it's going to be fast. As someone already said, things have moved along very quickly, which is exciting. I know our team at Payne West has sure enjoyed that. It's like, hey, we're going to the next thing. But, obviously, lots with those carrier partners that some have already been mentioned. There and the accelerator. Mike or Ellen, what's our time frame on that? I think we're applications in the fall, which is such a fun and energizing process last year. This year, who knows what it's going to look like because of COVID-19, but I'm sure we can, if we have to, I'm sure we'll pull it off just the same way. But that's that'll be a highlight for sure in the fall, get those applications and start that process all over again. Or others can pick up on other things going on as well.
We'll be saying farewell to the first cohort, and although we say we're saying farewell, I'm not sure that will ever happen because we're excited about continuing those relationships. I think everyone was really impressed with the quality of the applicants for the first accelerator. So as to Sarah's point, and she's absolutely correct, we'll be kicking off that process again in the fall. So hopefully we'll be able to get together and in the same room again and be able to analyze that another great group and kick it off all again. All right, so we currently have 37 proof of concepts going on with insurtech companies and insurance agencies and carriers. So we're really excited about what comes out of that. We really helps, again, when we talk about speed, not having all of the individual agencies evaluate all of the products, but being able to share those concepts has been really hugely helpful to us.
I think the only other thing I would want to make sure that gets covered is the response from some just amazing insurance companies has been, it's been humbling for us, and it's been in a lot of ways validating that having a partnership with BTV also is a part of their, if you will, roadmap and long-term plan. So we've mentioned Travelers a few times, but in addition, the Cincinnati Insurance Company, Amerisure, our friends at AmWinds. Who else am I missing, team?
RT Specialty.
And RT. It's just been amazing. And then we've got conversations going with 2 or 3 or 4 other people that we hope will join us, and they're just taking some time to make sure that they, dot their I's and cross their T's. But we're optimistic that more people will want to join us.
So before we wrap things up, as we look back on the last 12 months of BrokerTech Ventures, we've just wrapped up our first year. How have things changed, Brian, from where this thing started, where this concept started, to where it sits today?
I think part of this, we didn't know what we didn't know a year ago. So we had 60 people apply to be part of the accelerator, and we were delighted to have that number. And we culled that down to 20 in person and picked our first class of 12 companies. I think we learned along the way that some of those companies were more outliers in what kind of capital they needed or what kind of guidance and mentorship they needed. So I think as we're going through this for this next year, it's really making sure that the community at large, the Leaders Edge readership and subscribers all know that we're looking to go elevate the platform of an altruistic way to go help build the distribution channel for insurance. And so I'm kind of curious to see how this next class comes in, how many applications there are, and how we separate the different categories of pure startups to mid-sized companies to companies that just really need our capital or access to our talent.
Ellen, what do you think about that same question?
The past year, we've connected with thousands of people through this process. So I think, having startups recognize the value of the broker distribution, having the brokers come together and really create ideas and collaboration with the carriers has been amazing. And also our ability to help the startups have capital and continue that process throughout their life cycle will really be magical. So that's what I think we've accomplished over the past year and some of the high points that I see.
Mike, I know you've been around since day one. How have things changed for you?
I think that it's either changed or validated. I really feel confident that this business model is going to work and it's going to have the impact that we had only kind of hoped and dreamed. So maybe that's a change. Hopes and dreams are becoming reality. You think about, as Ellen said, the people that we know and that we've met, the people that we've gotten a chance to team up with to work on not just their technology, but how it impacts us and our customer and how that's going to move the industry. And I think in this space, it may have been Brian or Terry, I can't remember who kicked it off. You had asked a question about competitors coming together and working for the better of the industry. That was a hope and dream. And I think if there's one thing that's changed for me is a 1,000% solid conviction. Don't know when it actually happened, and I think everybody on the panel would share it. If you want something done right, do it together. And I think we're showing that. So that's what I got.
I love that. Terry, how about you?
Yeah, I would follow up Mike's comment. I summarize it by saying teamwork, and I think the teamwork's been terrific. The teamwork's been great with the partners. The teamwork's been great with the individual startups, and I would say it's really interesting how much we've learned from some of these startups, how much they've learned from us, and then how much we've learned from the other brokers and owners involved in BrokerTech Venture.
Cool. How about you, Sarah?
You know, we talk a lot about the infinite game when we have our meetings, and that thought of playing to keep playing, and this group is all in that. So when I think of this last year in Paine West, our involvement in BrokerTech Ventures and our involvement in collaboration with these characters on the call with me and others too, it's exceeded our wildest dreams at Paine West, and so we're looking forward to more of it.
Well, it's really cool, and it's really cool to kick off this BrokerTech Ventures and Leaders Edge webinar series. Fun to get the founding members of BrokerTech Ventures together to kick off this series. So thank you guys all so much, Brian, Ellen, Mike, Terry, and Sarah, for joining us today. Our next webinar series, our next episode of this webinar series will be on the Capitol Tower, which we'll talk more about at that time. But thank you guys all so much, and good luck getting through this pandemic.
Thank you, Tip. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next time, you too.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.